Hello, everybody. Oh, damn it. That robot got me again. I started to jump into the intro and then I heard the robot lady. And for some reason, I guess because of my voice mixing with it, I thought it was you, Tom.
No, 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 not me. Yeah, we didn't talk about who was going to open it this time, but
So,
yeah, the
hey,
robot, the robot kind of set us off anyway.
yeah, so welcome to
Uh,
the Noise Brigade. We're your very professional, very with it hosts, Bobby and Tom, and yeah. So what a way to start this one off and going with the theme. No, I'm not going to edit this. We're just going to do it live.
no, I mean it makes sense. I mean the theme is the best of.
Yeah,
You might as well just chalk that up for the best opening ever.
yeah. That
So
is definitely the best opening ever. Um, I think that we nailed it, and I think on that one we can just end the episode. So it's been fun. We'll see you guys later.
all right.
But yeah, what we're going to do this time is we are going to do the best of. We did the worst of in the last episode. This was supposed to be our cryptocurrency episode. It's gotten pushed back a little bit due to some scheduling snafus, but we're going to bang this one out, and then we will at some point talk to AJ and pick his brain a little bit on cryptocurrency. But for now, we wanted to kind of rerun through the list that we did last time with the worst of, and be a little bit more positive and throw our best ofs out there.
Yeah, I love the worst of idea. We had a lot of fun with that. We're gonna continue that another juncture with another 5, 10, 15 questions or whatever, and we'll do another episode. But yeah, let's kind of flip the script. We'll do the same questions that we did on our last episode, but we're gonna talk about the best of.
Right. So let's get started without further ado. I think we started with first or with best vehicle, or I mean worst vehicle we ever owned last time. So we're going to start with best vehicle you've ever owned.
Yeah. Okay. So best vehicle ever, and this is a hard one. This is a real toss up for me. But I have to go with I had a 2009 Pontiac G8 GT. That was a dream car for me. Whenever it was announced that those cars were coming out, I because I had owned a couple of Pontiacs previously, I was just kind of like jaw dropping. I remember having one as like my wallpaper on my computer. Like a lot of people would have like Lamborghinis and Ferraris and whatever. I had one of these when they first came out, and I had the opportunity to buy one a few years ago, and it lived up to the expectations for me. I loved it. It was such a fun drive. Just your typical big V8 in a sedan. And truthfully, the two reasons I don't have it anymore is one, I wanted a truck, but two, it was crazy expensive to fix. For a car that was kind of like what they would consider like a mid-price car now. There were things that would be like $100 or $200 on any other vehicle, and it would cost me like 1,000.
Oh,
So, yeah, but I loved it. Once I got on the highway and I was just doing simple things like merging or whatever, trying to get on. You had all the power that you needed. So that was it for me. So, what about you? What was your best?
so it was tough for me to pin down. I've had a ton of cars. I can't count off the top of my head, but I know I've had probably more cars than anybody I know, um, through just all different kinds of reasons. None that I care to get into at this point. Um, but it came down to, I would say, three cars for me,
Okay.
with an honorable mention. So the so the car that I'm going to say was my favorite, and I don't know how it would have played out long term because I literally had the car for 9 days. Um, I had a Nissan Juke, and
Okay.
I drove it off the lot. I loved it. It was small, but it was peppy. It had a turbocharged engine in it. I think it was like a 1.8 liter, um, four cylinder turbocharged engine. But dude, it went. It friggin' got up and went whenever I needed any kind of power from it. Even with I think it was only like I said, like 182 or 188 horsepower engine, but it moved. It was like a little
Yeah.
dune buggy.
For a car that size, yeah, that'd go.
Yeah. So sadly, 9 days into owning that vehicle, I totaled it in
Hmm.
the first car accident I've ever had. And I totaled it. So it was yellow. It was yellow and black. I called it Bumblebee for obvious reasons. Wasn't my first choice of color, but I really, really wanted one of those cars, and it was the only one on the lot that I could afford. So we went with that. So number two is I'm gonna give it to my old Mustang that I had, even the one I discussed about the bad brakes, the bad master cylinder. That was just a fun car to drive. It was a stick. I used to fly around in it. I loved it. The third one is going to be my Fiat that I just got rid of. It was a fun car to drive. It was unique looking. It was very similar to the Juke. The only difference really being that it had the interior quality was much nicer, and it was naturally aspirated, so it wasn't turbo, but it still had about the same horsepower. Like I said, the interior quality was much better. I didn't like the transmission as much, which is part of the reason I got rid of it. It's the Dodge, Stellantis or Stellantis, whatever they're calling their company now. Their 9-speed transmission, which is just atrocious. And they've been throwing it in everything. It shares a platform with the Jeep Compass, I believe, or the Jeep Renegade, but it's basically the same vehicle with a different body. But they're using this atrocious 9-speed transmission and everything, and it sucks really bad. So then the honorable mention I'm going to give is to the 2015 Taurus that's currently sitting in my driveway. I love it. I love driving it. The only real gripe I have with it is the sync system. It's a little glitchy. It doesn't play nice necessarily with my phone all the time. But that's, small potatoes. I got the car to drive, not to
there you go.
play with that crap. So
Right.
that's something that can be replaced. I'm not worried about that.
Right. And truth be told too, I've currently got a 16 Colorado that I drive and a 17 Explorer, which is Danielle's, and we both utilize Android Auto, and both of them have the same like minor issues at times. It's always like having to repair the phone, or the music sometimes just won't play through the speakers. So I think there's just like some years there, or just it really doesn't matter what it is. You're basically talking with computer with a vehicle with a computer, and then a phone, which is a whole another computer itself. You're trying to make them communicate together, and sometimes it happens, whatever.
Yeah.
So all right, me staying on cars though, we talked about really bad car modifications yesterday,
Right.
so we're gonna talk really good ones, our favorites today. So all right, so how about you? What was your favorite?
So this is gonna sound really stupid, but we're gonna go back to that 96 Monte Carlo with the neon lights that I put in it. I put one of those, and you're gonna get it. You're gonna pop on this one. All right. So remember back in the day, it was all the rage to put new head units in, right?
Yes.
And everybody was getting these crazy head units that had like graphics and stuff and this and that. It evolved to the point where they had little remote controls and stuff. Well, in that vehicle, I put a Chameleon head unit in.
Ooh, nice.
And I loved it. That's
nice.
And it's sad that that's my favorite modification that I've ever done to a vehicle. I mean, like I said, I'm thinking about doing some modifications to this one once money is where it needs to be. But so far, that's probably my favorite modification. I mean, it was pretty cool to stitch together the Aries with zip ties, but no, overall, like I think my favorite was that Chameleon head unit, because it was just so cool, man, and it was so cool for the time. Like, for those of you who are not familiar, who maybe grew up in times after all that crap was done, it was this little head unit, and it was just a black panel, and then what you would do is when you would turn the car on, it would power up, and like you could have a little control panel would flip down, the little volume knob would pop out of the front, and it was stupid, but it was fun, and I liked it. So
you're right, it was great for the time, and that's awesome. I dig that. I never had a Chameleon. I put a head unit in the Sunbird. That's not one of my favorites. It is what it is. One of those Sony Explodes.
Yes,
remember those?
I do.
Yeah, it was cool because it matched like the interior colors of the car. So
Yeah, I remember that.
I dug that. Um, my favorite, best of whatever, has got to be a toss up. One's really boring, and one is super dumb, but it made sense for the time. I had a bazooka tube in my
Yes,
'97 Grand Prix.
I remember.
the same the same one with the Flowmasters.
Yes.
So so yeah, my best and worst all in the same vehicle. Because it was ridiculously loud for no reason.
Right.
But yeah, no, I loved it because it was one of those things. I wanted speakers and I wanted a whole setup, but I didn't have the money, and I was able to like get that for like really really cheap, and got that in my trunk, and it was cool because like it actually sounded pretty good for what it was. But the funny thing, really thinking about it though, was then it like I had no trunk space at all.
Right.
Like it took up like a half of it. But my personal favorite really now though, and this is like I said, this is more boring, but um, my truck that I have now, like I said, 16 Colorado Z71. Basically, it's what they call the Trail Boss version. But that year there was a Trail Boss, there was a Midnight Edition, and the Midnight Edition was like all blacked out, everything. Well, the person that had got my truck ordered, because I'm the second owner, had basically gotten the Trail Boss edition, but they wanted all the midnight, you know, all the blacked out windows, the blacked out rims. That's what they wanted. So I got the off road package with all the blacked out stuff. So it looks really cool. But the one thing that they never had for mine was, and this is going to sound really stupid, but the exhaust tip. The only kind they had offered up until I think the end of 2019 into last year it was chrome. And I was like, man, it's really sucks because like my rest of my truck is black. Like I want to, and I didn't want an aftermarket. I wanted an OEM one.
Right.
So I waited and waited and waited, and sure enough, they came out with one some point last year. And yep, I bought one, and it was easy bolt on, and boom, done, got it, and everything matches out nicely. So yeah, that's probably my current favorite. Like I know it sounds really boring, but it was like, hey, I waited all this time. There was no OEM ones, plenty of aftermarket ones.
Right.
That's not what I wanted.
Right.
So
No, dude,
yeah.
I get that. I would do the same exact thing. The only thing I might have done, just because I'm an impatient son of a bitch, is I probably would have gotten Plastidip dip and just dipped it.
Yeah, and it's funny. I thought about like what I could possibly do to find one that was close enough, but in my mind I was like, and no one's gonna care, except for me. That was the whole thing. But I was like, I want one that says GM. I want it from the factory. I want it to have a number. I want that. It's like buying a piece of MLB merchandise and having the holographic sticker on it.
I get it.
That's what I wanted. So, but yeah, no, that was mine. So all right, let's get off of that. What was next?
All right, so the next one's going to be impulse buys. So yesterday we both talked about our worst impulse buys, which ended up being both of us PlayStation VR. So what is your best impulse buy?
Okay, and this is tough because I can't say that this was necessarily a full-blown impulse buy, because a lot of there was a lot of thought and a lot of time that went into it, but at the end of the day it kind of turned out to be an impulse buy. I've recently, earlier this year, bought a 2021 Forest River Wolf Pup Black Label RV. It's a smaller side, but it's good for my family. And we had looked for over 2 years for one. But the reason why I say it's impulse buy is because we went to go look at them, and we went to go look at a completely different one. It was still the same, Forest River. It was like the first brand new thing I ever bought in my life. It was still a 2021, but didn't have it was just had regular siding on it, and it was like a manual jack up front, and it didn't have these different things that we had seen on the one we ended up buying. And then the salesman was like, "Oh yeah, go check this one out." And I asked him, I was like, "Well, what's the price difference?" And he was like, "Like $2,000." And I'm like, "If I'm going to spend this much money, I want that one." Like,
Right.
and it's like it's got like automotive windows. It's all blacked out. It matches my truck. Like, I don't know what else I could possibly ask for, but that's the
Right.
one I want. So yeah, no, like I said, not completely impulsive because we had been looking and we had, somewhat saved for one, kind of. um, but, when at the end of the day, I saw that one, I was like, this is it. This is it. It was still the same size, and it was like within line of what we could tow and all that. Wasn't like we kind of, that's the one thing I've learned with doing this is like just talking to some people, reading things online. It's like, why did you buy that if you can't tow it? Like,
Right.
you
Right.
know, but so that all that stuff was still in line, but it was like impulsively for the aesthetics. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And well, it did have a power jack too, so whatever.
Well,
But so, what about you, man? What's your best like? Hey, pop in the store or whatever.
so all right. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna again because this is what I do. I can't just narrow it down to one. So I've got two, and they both happen to be from Walmart, which is weird because I don't like Walmart really, because they're filled with crackheads down here. But so the first one is something I was planning on getting eventually, but I just happened to. I was leaving class one night, when I was still in college, and I went to. It was the night that the night before the Switch launched, and so it was going to launch at midnight, and I was like, you know what? I didn't pre-order it. Let me see if if I can slide in anywhere and just snag one. So I drove by our Target. There was a huge line, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Walmart because I don't know if they're even doing a midnight launch. I would imagine they are, but I'm gonna go by Walmart. That's probably not where people are thinking. So I went to Walmart. I got in there. There was a line, and I said, "Hey, man," I asked the guy that was at the end of the line. I said, "Hey, do you know how many they've had, or they say they had?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, they said they had 25." So I'm looking at the people in line. I count out the line, and I was like 23. So I'm like, all right, well, screw it. I don't have anywhere else to be. I'm done class for the night. I'm gonna hang out here. I brought my 3DS, so I was set. I played some Pokemon Go too. So that would be one I got. I ended up getting the Switch, and luckily before or right as I got to the counter, right before I got to the counter, somebody found a box that had Breath of the Wild, the limited edition version in it.
Right.
So I was able to snag the limited edition version of Breath of the Wild. Had a Switch case in it and the game and like a fabric map and stuff. And I used the case. I didn't think I was going to, but I used the case for a while. So that was a good. Um, I'll call it an impulse buy, but it was something I wanted to get anyway. Um, the best one, just off the cuff, would have to be the X-Men versus Street Fighter cabinet that I have sitting in my living room. Uh,
Yeah, and I'm jealous of that, man. That's so cool.
so I bought.
Ah,
I was messing around online, and again, Walmart. I happened to see that it was on sale. It was down from 500 to four, or no, was it three? I don't remember. It was inexpensive for what it was. It's got four games on it. It's got X-Men vs. Street Fighter, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men Apocalypse or Mutant Apocalypse, which was on SNES, and has Marvel vs. Capcom. Light Up Marquee has online multiplayer, so you can play against people all over the country who have these cabinets. Um, and I got it on sale, and I got it on like the Affirm thing, so it's like $30 a month for a year. And I couldn't pass that up. And what was the coolest thing about the whole thing, though, was seeing Peyton's face when he saw it for the first time.
oh man, that's worth the price alone.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
worth it to me.
that's
He was
awesome.
so excited about it, and it's something we can do. And we play it, and he kicks my butt, and he gets makes him feel good, and he's happy. So, at the end of the day, that adds up to a pretty good impulse buy for me.
Yeah, that'd be a number one for me too. I've really wanted one of those NBA Jam machines, and
Yeah,
and I really want to, hopefully eventually do it. I'm kind of in the same boat you are. It's like, where am I going to put it? You know,
right, right, right.
I just don't really have the space for it. But
Well, you know
no,
what?
I would.
you know what they announced too? So, well, by the way, that NBA Jam one has NBA Jam, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and NBA Hang Time on it.
Yeah, I know. Don't tempt me.
But they just announced basically a reissue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one with a four-player cabinet. It's got the original Turtles game and Turtles in Time. This one's going to be themed after Turtles in Time because the first one was obviously based on the first one. But they've announced the X-Men arcade game coming out, like the one with Welcome to Die and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the one that's really going to get you, and I'll almost guarantee you're going to pre-order this when the pre-orders go live. The Simpsons arcade game.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
The Simpsons arcade game.
Oh man, I spent so many quarters playing that stupid game.
You know what the other game that's on it is?
What's that?
The Simpsons Bowling. It has the trackball on it.
Oh man.
And we don't know if there's going to be another one. There could be another one on it too.
I need to buy another house.
Right? Dude, I want to buy a separate house. Not that I can afford, but I'll buy a separate house and just fill it with arcade one-ups.
Oh man, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
So all right.
Now that I've got you to preemptively spend your money.
Yeah, the no money I have left, but
yeah, right?
Yeah. All right. So we did cars, impulse buys. What's next on our plate here?
So that led us into when we both had the PSVR as our worst impulse buy, led us into worst video game. So if you had to say what the best video game is, what would you say?
Tough question, because I think it's this changes for me at times. As well as I do, I love Tetris.
Right.
Those things, and like a game like that's always going to hold a special place in my heart because my mom was such a big Tetris fan, and she was not just a fan; she was exceptionally good at it too, better than me. But tossing back and forth, and I'll cheat a little bit because I'll mention a couple of games here.
I'm going to too, so you're good.
There's times where I sit there and I'm like, Tecmo Super Bowl is my all-time favorite game. Because I have such fond memories of it. It's a game that I play all the time.
Right.
But I generally stick with it seasonally. Like football season kicks around, that's what I play. Or whatever, roster iteration somebody has modded, I'll play it. Because I just can't stand to play Madden. And I'm such a big Tecmo fan. But if I'm really looking at like games that really made that impact for me, and then it's a toss up between two. Diablo 2, which I'm super excited about the re-release, the remaster.
Right.
And Skyrim. And I say that because I've spent so many hours playing it, and I played it PS3. I bought it for the PS4 3 different times, and I bought it for the Switch. It's like the only game that I believe that I bought 5 times. So if that doesn't equate to, fear, fandom, and love of a game, I don't know what does.
Right.
But no, I legitimately did. I bought it 5 different times. And like, if I ever got my hands on the newest Xbox or PlayStation, the 5 there, and if it was like, oh, we're coming out with this remastered, I would buy it again.
Right.
Because that's just how much of a fan I am of it. So either one of those for me.
And just to further pour some salt in the wound, it would have to be Xbox because Bethesda.
Right. Bethesda. Right. That's
no, they're not. Bethesda didn't make Diablo, right? That's Blizzard.
No, that's Blizzard.
Yep, okay. All right. I was gonna say because that would really screw things up for you.
No. And truth be told, like as much as I'm excited to get Diablo 2, the remaster for the Switch, I have more fond memories of playing it on PC than anything else. So, I'm not saying that like I'm like not looking forward to like playing the remaster on the Switch, but like my fondest memories are always going to be playing it on the PC.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So how about you? I know you've got more than one. So what you
Yes.
got?
So I'm gonna go sports game, and then I'm gonna go just um like my comfort food game. So my sports game obviously is, and we've talked about it a million and a half times on this. I'm gonna have to go with NFL 2K5. Um, obviously I love baseball stars, I love Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl, I love ice hockey, Blades of Steel. But I mean, I'm still at this point playing NFL 2K5. And I actually posted on our Twitter, on our Facebook, and sent you stuff about it like last night. So
Mm-hmm.
clearly, I have some kind of sick obsession with this game. Um, my comfort food game is going to be Dr. Mario.
Really?
Yes. And so what's really super awesome is not only do I have it I have it for my NES still. I have Dr. Mario 64 for the N64, obviously. And since it's on the Nintendo online service on the NES part, I can just, when I'm playing my Switch, I can just pop over to that and play it. And I'll use that, like, I use it in all different manners. Like, I'll play it sometimes when I'm bored. I'll play it sometimes when I need to de stress and I need to just shut my brain off or let my brain, like, completely focus on something else and just kind of use that to clear everything out, to kind of reset things. Like if I'm feeling really down, I'll play that because again, it takes my mind off of it. It resets things. So I'm gonna use Dr. Mario. Like I could have used a couple different games in there that are really awesome, like Earthbound or The Legend of Zelda or any of the Super Mario Brothers games. But I feel like if I'm going for something that's just kind of evergreen that I could just pick up and play anytime and enjoy it, it would be Dr. Mario.
So, okay, I think this leads a really interesting question because I mentioned Tetris. So, with the Switch online service, you have Tetris 99,
Mhm.
and we've seen Super Mario 35. Do you think we see a Dr. Mario iteration of that battle royale type atmosphere?
I would love that, man. I would love that. I love Tetris 99. I don't play it as much as I would like to, which there's nothing really stopping me. I just always forget about it. But I actually have the physical cartridge of Tetris 99, because as we said, I'm a huge physical cartridge guy,
Right.
and I literally, for me and Peyton, I bought the physical cartridge. Um, it helped that it came with a year long um, subscription to the Nintendo Online service, but I wanted the physical cartridge of it. But dude, and Super Mario 35 was awesome. I wish they would have kept that up. But Dr. Mario, I would love to see a a battle royale of Dr. Mario.
Yeah, yeah. It would make sense. I think that would be. Now, I don't know how it would work. I would assume it'd be more akin to Tetris 99, but yeah, I mean that game like perfectly lends itself to it.
Yeah,
That was one of those games that I didn't appreciate until because I was such a big Tetris person
right.
that I didn't appreciate it until later after release. You know, does that make sense? Like
Yeah. So
I wasn't like a big initial fan of it, and then it took a while for me to like. So yeah,
So I had a lot of exposure to it early on because when I got my Game Boy, my very first Game Boy for Christmas, obviously, they all came with Tetris in the beginning. So I had Tetris, and then I got Dr. Mario for it for Christmas. That was the only other game I had until, like, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months later, when one of my classmates had found a copy of Alleyway on the like on the ground outside her house on the sidewalk, and she sold it to me for $5.
oh wow.
Yeah, so like those were the three Game Boy games that I had for like the first year of the Game Boy being out. And then I eventually got more stuff, but like that was what I had to play. And I remember being shocked when I saw it on the NES, because at that point I don't think I mean, maybe I realized it came out, but my cousin had it and I remember going over and playing it there and just like spending hours and hours just playing Dr. Mario on the NES and on the Game Boy. It was just, I love that game.
So, and this will be go remiss without saying, Dr. Mario, Tetris conversation. I would be remiss without saying, would mention the Nintendo service that I had gotten into Wario's Woods. Have you played that on the Switch service?
I have not.
So play it. And I'm not saying that it's exactly like Dr. Mario in any stretch of the imagination, but it's a falling puzzle game. And apparently it was like one of the last releases for the NES. But it's on the Switch service, and I got to playing it. Man, it's addictive.
Yeah.
It's fun. So if you're like Tetris, you're like Dr. Mario, take that. Whether I'm telling you or are thousands and thousands of listeners,
The millions.
yeah, and millions. Wario's Woods. It's a fun puzzle game. So
Not to go too far into the woods on this one, no pun intended. But have you played Yoshi?
Was it an NES game?
So it was NES and Game Boy, and it was a puzzle game. It was the falling blocks, but it was the enemies, and the idea was you had to catch them inside Yoshi eggs. So you would have a bottom of the egg, you would stack up the creatures inside it, or you could do the match 3.
Yes, I've played that, very limited, but not like, yes, I have played that, but not to an extent that I could be an expert at it.
Is it similar to Wario's Woods, or are they?
Yes, kind of. Color matching for Wario's Woods. It's still enemy based. Like you still have like the little, I don't know. The little creatures almost remind me of the little germs in Dr. Mario.
Okay.
But they're like, I don't know. Like if you do a search on it, like a screen thing, you'll see like they look like little. I don't know. It's weird. They look like little rabbits almost, but they're, to me, like they're little creatures. I'm not gonna say they're enemies or whatever. But then you also have like this series of like bombs that you use to like, I don't know. It's different. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different take on it.
Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about with the little creatures.
Yeah, like it's kind of, to me, like reminds me of like the little viruses you had in Dr. Mario, but then you have like some other things going on.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll have to give that a look.
Yeah. So anyway, but all right. So we got best of game here. What was our next one?
The next one, if I'm correct in how I was remembering this, was worst job. So let's go best job.
All right. So what about you? What's your best job?
All right. So I had, again, man, I'm breaking my own rules. So I had 3 really good jobs. 4, really. Scott, I'm terrible at this. I made up the rules and I can't even follow them. So 2 of them were part-time jobs, and one of them was I was working part-time at Game Crazy, which was the video game store arm of Hollywood Video. I worked at the one in Woodbury Heights, and what I would do is I would have to work one day in the store like every so often, but what I was really there for was to go to Donato's Pizza, which was out in front of the Acme on 45, and I would, or not 45, right, you know where I'm talking about, right there on Mantua Pike.
Yeah.
It was across from the Pizza Hut, which was funny, but I would go there with an Xbox, a PS2, and a GameCube, and I would get paid to play video games and eat free pizza on Monday nights. So that was super cool. That only lasted for a little bit because I was doing that part-time when I worked at the hospital before I got my technician job up at McGuire. Then I would say the other ones are going to be when the few games I worked security for the Eagles. I worked one of the playoff games that we won where we beat Tampa Bay on New Year's Eve, and I worked in the 700 level. So any of you out there that are Eagles fans, you know what the 700 level was. And I had a blast. I didn't get into any fights. It wasn't like the Jimmy Buffett concert I worked security at where I got into a fight. I got into 0 fights at the Eagles game in the 700 level. New Year's Eve, mind you. But then, like, the real jobs, I would say there were two real jobs that I've had that I've just really enjoyed. And one of them, and I didn't realize it at the time, looking back at it, it was a really was a really enjoyable job, and I complained about it, and I was happy when I left. But looking back, I would have been happier staying, I think. And that was my technician job in the Guard, working on the KC 135 Stratotanker. I did enjoy that job. Some of the people were kind of shitheads, but I liked the job. And then the job I have now, I truly enjoy the job I have now. It is one of the best jobs that I've ever had, and I look forward to sticking around and seeing where things go.
Yeah, and knowing you for as long as I have, you know, that doesn't surprise me for you to say that, because I can tell a change in your demeanor. You seem a lot happier. You know, it just, you know, I think you're in a, yeah, I really do. If we're being honest over here on our own podcast, I think you're in a good spot. I think you're being, I really do. I think you're in a good spot with it.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the thing. Like it took a while to find kind of my spot once I got out of the military. It was difficult with bouncing around and everything, and moving from Jersey to Florida was not the easiest move. And I still, listen, honestly, I still hate Florida. I do. It's nicer now because we got Wawa, but I still hate the heat. I'm an Eskimo. I like the snow. I like the cold. I'm a freak. I don't know, whatever. But it's a little bit more bearable now that I have a job that I enjoy. So.
no, but no, I can definitely, like I said, see that change in your demeanor, just based on our conversations, and just seem like you know, you're more yourself, you know.
I'm getting older too, so like I'm kind of mellowing out a little bit. I don't want to fight everybody anymore, you know, like you know.
So yeah, you know, and it's funny. Best job for me, you know, and I've gotten very, very lucky in the sense that I've worked for some very great people over the years, and I always finally reflect on the first job that I had, and whether it was, you know, working pumping gas and into working as a service writer at the auto shop, and I did that for such a long time. And yeah, I did work at a record store. I can't say it was one of my best jobs though, and stack up to any of that.
Right.
My best job is going to be the one I have now. You know, because I'm entering year 15, and if it wasn't the best, I still wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
I have worked for a couple of absolutely wonderful superintendents. You know, because that's what my position answers to. You know, obviously I answer the community, but as far as like my daily day in, day out, if I were to say that I have a boss, it's the superintendent. So I've worked under 3, and 2 of them have been absolutely phenomenal. You know, the one I have now actually used to have my position many years ago. So he was like the first tech person they had, and then I took his job basically. So they've had 2. They had him and they had me. You know, over the last 20 years, as far as a person in charge of technology. So you know, I love it. My big thing is, and again, I don't mean to kind of go deeper on this, and we can talk about this another day. But we, you know, I went through, and a long time ago, was very adamant about making certain that our students were safe. And I don't mean playing Big Brother necessarily, but
Right.
you know, we were under the guise of having to filter what they were doing anyway. So, you know, no porn sites, no extremely violent things, whatever, because that was part of how we got funded for our internet services. That's, if anyone doesn't know that, if you're in a public school environment, and you know, especially in communities where, you know, money is just not very prevalent, you can get funded from the federal government, as long as you have the Child Internet Protection Act in mind and you filter your services. And that basically takes away all the bad stuff. It's phenomenal. It's been around for a long time. But we took it one step further, and we started, you know, going into these services where it would take, and it would look at, you know, what if a child was searching things like, you know, how to hurt themselves, or maybe even how to kill themselves, or, you know, bullying or whatever. And we were able to like take that information and like, oh my goodness, like so and so is doing this, and we could jump on it right away, and we've been doing that for such a long time. And I feel honored to say the company that we work with, their name is Securely. Um, they were the first company to really jump on that side of it, as far as like, okay, we're auditing activities. We're not just filtering, but now we're looking at, you know, are these people suicidal? Are they, are they into, doing some like insane drug deal, that sort of thing? And our systems were able to like monitor that sort of activity, not just looking at porn sites or anymore. This is just like real heavy stuff.
Right.
And the company that we worked with was the first company that like ever do that in the world. Well, what's great for us was that we were the second school district on the planet to start using that service. So that's always been a nice feather in my cap.
Yeah. Dude,
So yeah,
we're gonna have to dive deeper on that, because I think that that's really important, especially now with the way social media is and the way that kids are exposed to everything now, and how we're seeing this rise in suicide, and we're seeing this rise in bullying, where kids just can't get away from it, you know. And to have a program like that that's looking out for signs that maybe one of these kids is in trouble and needs help, um that's awesome, because not every because kids aren't equipped for that, man. They're
yeah, no, yeah, we
and
can definitely dive deep on that one day.
that's awesome. I'm super, you know uh, super interested in that. I definitely would like to dive deeper, because that's very interesting. I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's one of those things that I've been a part of for such a long time, and yeah, we can hit that another day. So all right, let's try to
Let's
go
lighten
another
it up.
direction here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
So
what we got?
let's go with I think the next one we hit was band.
All right, so how about you?
Oh, dude. So there's several bands that I will always, if I see their stuff, if I see they've come out with new stuff, I will always buy. Um, so I'm gonna try to not cheat here. I'm gonna
Not say Creed or Nickelback, right?
Yeah, definitely not saying Creed or Nickelback. Not gonna go Limp Bizkit, which not a knock on Limp Bizkit, but because I still do listen to some Limp Bizkit. I can't say I don't. I'd be a liar. Um, I'm gonna say the Foo Fighters, because I'm gonna say, and here's my reasoning. Um, Now the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones obviously are huge. They've been a huge musical influence on me. Real Big Fish, Social Distortion, Blink 182, um, Flogging Molly, Dropkick Murphys. I could go on and on. The Foo Fighters have never had an album that I haven't enjoyed. There might be songs on the album that I'm kind of like, maybe this song could have been like a beast, like left on the cutting room floor, or whatever. But by and large, when they put something out, I'm listening, and I'm enjoying what I'm hearing. So
Right.
I'm gonna go Foo Fighters.
All right. No, that's yeah, shit. That's hard to disagree with. You know, um, I'm a big Foo Fighters fan myself. I remember buying that first album. After it was like came out in '94, I believe, right?
Yes.
It was self-titled, right?
Yeah.
94, 95. When was that? Somewhere around then.
I want to say 94.
Was it 95?
Because it was the same year that Weezer's Blue album came out, which another band that, I mean, they're
Weezer's,
not
that was 94.
okay.
So yeah, it had to be yeah, okay.
But yeah, I just can't pinpoint an album that they've made that I haven't enjoyed. I've seen them live a couple times, and they're fantastic live. Dave Grohl just seems like, genuinely the nicest, most genuine guy in rock and roll, which, kind of goes against rock and roll edicts a bit. Rock and roll edicts from the past, I should say, a bit. But he's a talented guy. He can play so many instruments. He can do so much, and he seems like he's always trying to do stuff for his fans and for people in general. And so I just really dig them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Everything I've read about him, and just seems like a generally good guy. You know, I don't recall ever seeing too many negative press about him. And you know what? He's in a hard area too, because I mean, if you're a musician, any kind of musician or entertainment, I mean, yeah, you're under the microscope.
Yeah.
You can make one wrong move, and man, they're on you. So
I mean, it seems like the only person that has anything bad to say about him is Courtney Love, and who the hell cares what she says anyway?
yeah, well,
If it wasn't for her, we'd still have Kurt Cobain.
Well, yeah, she's been out there. So, yeah, no, I love that. I love the Foo Fighters, man. I think that's such a great, best. I like that. I mentioned mine yesterday, Beastie Boys. And I've got so many others that have been so influential to my tastes. And I'm very eclectic. I listen to everything. Whether it's, I remember getting very early into a lot of the electronic type music and whatnot when no one else was into it. And, so I took a lot of heat for that. And, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Daft Punk's winning Grammys, and
Right.
But
that's my favorite album.
Yeah. It's funny. I just love music, and there's very few things that I listen to that I just don't care for. Now, granted, there's a lot of like the pop stuff now, but I think that's like a generational thing.
Right.
Like I've never been one to, outside of like when Y100 was in existence, to flip on the radio and listen to it and think, oh, that's cool. Never have.
Right.
But in the last couple of years, like here's a good example, and maybe this is like an attribution to me of having lived down south so long. I've gotten huge into Lynyrd Skynyrd. Like,
okay,
anything prior to, basically 1977, I love. Like, it's just amazing. And like, I just really got into that, but it's like, it's not new. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was around before I was born. So, but yeah, no, I Beastie Boys for me. I mean, I wrote my term paper in high school on them. I think that's a hat tip to my English teacher for letting me do that one. Yeah, no. So that's it for me on that one.
All right. So that'll bring us on to best song, and I'm wondering, do we go with best song or do we go with best album on this one?
Ooh, yeah. We could. I mean, if you have a few songs, I guess we could throw down on that. But I mean, let's do both. Let's hit on both. So what about you? Like, what about album or albums? I think we can hit this multiple ways.
So if I'm going albums and I'm going just something that I can put on and listen to from start to finish, Weezer's Blue Album. That's a start to finish for me. Absolutely. Pinkerton is another one that's a start to finish. But one of my favorite albums of all time, it's a live album, and it's the Mighty Mighty Bosstones live from the Middle East, and it's not the Middle East like Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, blah blah blah. It's there's a club in Boston called the Middle East, and they do what's called the Hometown Throwdown, and they do that there every year, around Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. And so I'd say that's probably up there too.
Right.
I'd say, but it's tough for me to pick just when there's so many great albums that have come out. Say Anything's put out some really good stuff. Johnny Cash, like, without going to a greatest hits album, because like Queen's greatest hits, the Cars greatest hits, you could sit there and it's obviously hit after hit after hit.
Right.
So, but I'm gonna go 3. No, I'm not. You know what? I'm going the Blue Album by Weezer.
Yeah, that's a great album. I remember buying that CD as one of the first, probably first 10 CDs that I ever recall like buying. Had a little duffel bag with a little portable CD player. Man, Blue Album was right on top every time.
Right.
I absolutely love that album. And it holds up too for, now we're talking almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great pick.
And so if we're gonna do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that my best song is going to be off of that album, since it's the best album, and I'm going to go Only in Dreams.
Good song. It's a good song. Wow. Yeah. No, I like it. I like it a lot. That's awesome. No, yeah, and I would say there's got to be many, many people that agree with you on both counts there, because that's a solid album, solid song. Yeah. Yeah. Mine is obviously Anything by Creed. No.
Creed collected albums.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me. I don't, I've always been really finicky with albums, even with bands I really like, especially going start to finish with things. You know, was a big fan of Linkin Park's first two releases, start to finish. I know those are ones that I'll listen to over and over again. And and I always toss this back and forth with certain bands, because there are bands that I really like, that I've liked practically the whole album. But the one band and the one album that I really always go back on, and I think part of it holds to me because I was listening to it around the same time, because it came out in 1995. Rocket from the Crypt, Scream, Dracula, Scream.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but like it's always an album that shows up in my, well, I know why, because it's my favorite, but it just everything on it, like I just dig it. And it's such a solid album. I don't really care for anything else that they've ever done. Really, I don't. But that album was like dynamite to me.
Yeah. No, dude, that is a great album.
Start to finish, absolutely fantastic. The only other one I would say is an honorable mention to me would be Metallica. Ride the Lightning.
Okay.
Kill 'Em All was fantastic. A little raw for me. I think Ride the Lightning is where they put it together. Talk about start to finish and talk about a solid record. That's it too.
Yeah.
So those are a couple that I could really get into, and I have others that I really dug over the years, but you're talking start to finish without skipping a beat or skipping a song. Yeah. Those two for me are it. And really at the top would be Rocket from the Crypt. Now, song wise, I'm going to have to go in another direction and say, Are You Jimmy Ray by Jimmy Ray.
Jesus Christ. All right, so true story. I'm going to out myself here. I had that single.
Don't worry, I had it too.
It was god awful. It was terrible, but I loved it, and it popped into my head the other day too, and I started singing it. I'm like, Jesus, why is this song still in my head?
I had to goof on that. No, it's catchy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But my all-time favorite song is "So What You Want" by the Beastie Boys. I mean, that's hard to believe that'll be 30 next year.
Yeah.
Remember seeing the video on MTV. I just love that, black and white, like they just look so bad, hardcore, like just awesome to me anyway. And I just love that song. And I liked it even more whenever Beck sampled it in E-Pro. I thought that was cool. So, but anyway.
I do have an honorable mention. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good song.
And that EP is fantastic too. I don't know if you ever listened to the whole thing. I've listened to it start to finish multiple times. It's solid. But it's something I have to be in the mood. I can listen to Wish You Were Here pretty much, unless I'm trying to get hyped up or something. I could listen to that song at any time. But that album, if you need to relax, you need to just chill out, or it's like a rainy day and you're just, such a good listen from start to finish.
Yeah, no, and Pink Floyd Pink Floyd. I mean, that's hard to beat. All right, so we got some cars down, we got some impulse buys, some game stuff, music out of the way. Where else were we at with this best of?
We've got 3 left. We've got best movie.
Okay.
best actor, and best beer.
All right, let's knock out best beer first. Then we'll
Okay.
because I think we get into a conversation about movies and actors.
Yes.
What's your favorite beer? Best beer for you?
So, and here's the thing. I'm gonna give three beers.
Okay.
And the three beers, I'm not saying that they are the absolute be all end all of beers. I'm just saying that if I'm somewhere and I want a beer and they have one of these three beers, depending upon the situation, I'm getting it 9 times out of 10, especially if they have a whole bunch of beers that I have never had before. Um, and I've got to pick. Okay.
Okay.
So the honorable mention is going to be Guinness because I can have a Guinness anywhere, anytime, as long as it's on draft, it's good. Um, but I have to be kind of empty for that because
Yeah, it's a little yes, it's a little heavy.
I do really enjoy Guinness, love it. But if I'm looking for just a beer like that's not a meal, um, the three I'm talking are Kentucky Bourbon Barrel,
Okay.
which I thoroughly enjoy. It's probably one of my favorites, like of all time. Um, Sam Adams Cherry Wheat, which I don't even know if they make anymore. Um,
I think they do.
but it's a solid choice. Um, and Yingling.
Yeah.
And the reason that I give them is because I know, I mean, we talked about the Russian roulette aspect of Yingling, but by and large, with those three beers, I know what I'm getting. I know I'm going to enjoy drinking it. So those would be my best beers.
Yeah. No, I 100%. So I'll do three as well. I'll do one that you can get anywhere, um, one craft, and then one that I've made or helped make.
Okay.
Um, so one, yeah, anywhere beer Yingling Lager, 100% every day, every time, ball game, bar, dinner. Yeah, 100. I agree with you 100% there. That's a beer we grew up with.
Right.
That's it. Nothing like sitting by you. You and I have fond memories of sitting playing video games or sitting by the fire or just whatever. Like that was our beer. We'd
Right.
have that in our hand. Um, Craft beer. This is a kind of a deep one. There's a brewery that's about 2 hours or so from where I live called White Rooster. And they made a barley wine called Casting Shadows, and it's really strong, but it's absolutely ridiculously good. Was just, yeah, couldn't put it down. So smooth for what it was because it's like a 12% beer.
Mm.
Love that beer. Love the name too. Just thought Casting Shadows was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's it. But then several years ago, the guy that taught me how to brew, my buddy Brian, we got like absolutely hammered drunk one day and we're brewing together. And it was like probably one of the first times I brewed with him where I was actually like participating, learning how to do it. And we just got into it and it's like, well, why don't we just throw this hop in there? Why don't you do this? What do you have in your fridge? Let's just throw that in there. Like it was just like disaster. Like this was not going to turn out good. So fast forward some time, um, after it all ferments out and he gets it all kegged up and whatnot. And yeah, he called it the Halle Berry. That was what he wanted to name it. That was his deal. But it was amazing, absolutely amazing. It was so potent, but yet because we had hopped it so much, everything balanced out so nicely. And like to this day, like we have no idea what went in it. We can't recreate it because we were both like just. It's amazing that it turned out the way it did. But it always sticks on my head, because it's like it was such a fun day to make it, but then it was like, wow, it turned out to be something. So
All right.
all right, so best movie. Let's do your best movie, and then I'm think you can't just have one.
No, dude, no.
Yeah.
I don't have just one. So I'm gonna go a couple here, obviously, because that's what I do with all of these, because I'm indecisive and can't just pick one. So I'm gonna go Goon. Um,
Solid.
I'm gonna go pretty much all comedy because um just anymore, like that's just kind of what gets my juices flowing as far as things that I can rewatch over and over. Like I love the MCU. I love all of those movies. I own them all on Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, all that stuff. Um, but they're, you got to be in a mood to watch them. You've got to be in the right mind space to watch them. Um, it's not like I couldn't watch, as much as I love it, I couldn't watch Spider-Man every single day.
Right.
But there's certain movies, so like Goon would be a desert island movie for me. Um, I'm gonna say Super Troopers,
Nice, good one.
and I'm gonna say, uh, while it's not, I don't even think it's his best movie, um, but it's just something I could watch over and over, and I would laugh, and it would be Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Nice. That's a good call. Wow, I like that. So, all right, we want to have to dive into this a little bit later because I know you're such a big Kevin Smith person. So what didn't you pick Clerks or Mallrats or
They're so singularly focused, and they're they're very good. I love them. I mean, I've watched them both like countless times. Dogma is awesome. Chasing Amy's phenomenal. Zack and Miri Make a Porno is great. And
phenomenal. Yes.
Maybe that one that lands on the list on a different day. But so here's why I say Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So I recently, well, not recently, but like I guess October 2019, I saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in the movie theater again.
Mm-hmm.
I got tickets to when Jay and Silent Bob Reboot came out. I bought tickets, and the show that I went to see was a double feature, and it was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back first, and then it was Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And so, I hadn't seen it for a little bit. It had been, probably like a year or two since I'd watched it. And then I went and saw it on the big screen, and I was laughing my ass off the whole time, man. And I knew the lines. Like I was saying the lines as they were coming out of the actors' mouths. And it was just too damn funny. And I don't know what it is about that movie in particular, but that's the one that, and again, I'd venture to say that as his movies, I love Kevin Smith. So this is going to sound like a slam. It's not, I promise you. But as the movies have come out in that universe, the Jay and Silent Bob universe,
yes,
they've gotten less and less story driven and more gag driven and more of a cameo fest than like a real legit storyline.
Right.
And I say this as someone who obviously I saw Reboot and I loved it. But it becomes, okay, when's this person going to show up? When's that person going to show up? And Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was definitely a cameo fest, but it was still funny. And it's still to this day, like, again, I'll watch it and I'll crack up. George Carlin as the hitchhiker.
Oh, fantastic.
Carrie Fisher as the Harry Bush nun.
Yes.
What is his name? Dietrich Bader as the security guard on the movie lot.
Yep. Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill is Cockknocker.
Yep.
Chris Rock as Shaka Luther King. There's just so much. There's just so much. It is so good, man, and I love it. And so to me, that would be one of my desert island movies, and that's why I got to throw it on here.
Nice. So it's funny. Back in the old Yahoo GeoCities days, remember that?
Yes, I do.
That this is one of those. How old do you say you are without actually saying it? But no, I actually would run movie reviews on a site there. I did it for a couple of years, well prior to anything that I was aware of at the time. So because I would go see a lot of movies in the theater. That's what I did up until I was about 20-ish. So anyway, I did that, and I had to think, and I would always think like, my top three movies of all time for the longest time are always Boondock Saints, Fight Club, and Seven. Those are always the ones that stuck in my head, and Boondock Saints is always going to be in there for me. Fight Club might be in the top five at this point, maybe an honorable mention somewhere out there. So I always have, a fond thing for Boondock and Fight Club. I can't say seven's up there anymore, but still a good movie. I just don't think it's in my, top three. Definitely not top three anymore. But when I had that site going, I also, it was the first time I had seen Not Another Teen Movie. And I it was the only movie that I never rated because I didn't know what to give it the first time I saw it. And over the years, it became a movie that Danielle and I watched over and over and over again. We'd be up one night, let's just throw a Not Another Teen Movie on. And it was one of those movies that you catch something new every time. And the cast is amazing. I mean, it's Chris Evans' first movie for one. So, I mean, you really can't, it's really hard to get away from that aspect of it alone. But, I mean, the rest of the cast is, amazing. And some of the lines in that movie are just absolutely dynamite. Walk it off, Marty! After he's been chopped in half.
Yeah.
But then you have, Paul Gleason reprising his Breakfast Club role. And you have the Ferris Bueller stuff going on this whole time, and then the She's All That parodies, and Randy Randy Quaid's in it. I mean, who is comedic.
Cheer up, pumpkin tits.
Yeah, it's just comedic genius. It's such a great. So
the opening alone, where
oh yeah,
oh my god, if you haven't seen that movie, do yourself a favor. Go see it.
It's so good. And it's funny. So we had watched How I Met Your Mother, I don't know, probably the year after it ended. We watched it straight through, binged it, the whole series, because it was right at the time when streaming services were really kicking off.
Yeah.
So we had watched it on TV here and there, but finally went through and binged it. I'm sitting there watching Not Another Teen Movie, and was like, holy crap, that's Ted Mosby. And he's in that a little bit. Okay. And oh yeah. He's actually, in one of the first scenes talks about all you jocks line up over here, all you preppy guys and all you, cheerleaders line up over here. That's Ted Mosby. And he's in. Oh
my God. How did I not see that?
Yeah. And but I'm not lying. It was the 50th watching for me to get that. But yeah, no, it's so good. There's so many actors in that movie, and it's just ridiculous. It's a fun watch. It's just over the top. But you just have so many different things in there. But yeah, no, that's it for me. It holds so many different things. I do have to give a shout out to Eurotrip though, because that Eurotrip has the best cameo of all time in there.
Yes.
So.
Fantastic. Road Trip, Euro Trip. What was the one? Oh no, it was Road Trip, the one where they're on the bus and they try to jump the car over the creek and all that, and they have what's his name? DJ Qualls.
DJ Qualls, yeah.
Gets the girl's underwear. He's like, "What did you kill, a leopard or whatever it was?"
And if it's funny. So there's a movie that DJ Qualls is in. He's in the movie The New Guy.
Yes. With
Ross Patterson. Ross has been following me on Twitter for I don't know how long. So if Ross ever listens to this podcast, hi, Ross. That's St. James Street James. I don't know if you ever seen any of his movies. Pool Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's out there. They're good.
Yeah. I remember watching that when you guys came down the one time.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So how about actor? What about you? I think it's probably not just one, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's not just one. I will say there was a point, I've gone through different phases. So at one point it was, I thought Nicolas Cage was the best actor on the planet. That was funny. There was another time when I was another point where I was really into Ben Affleck. Um, you know, Jason Lee, and there was these times when I would just go and buy movies that certain specific actors were in. I wouldn't have seen them, I wouldn't have heard anything about them, but I'd buy the movies just because, oh well, this actor's in it, it's got to be good. Um, and I'd say probably the one that let me down the least until at least Hot Tub Time Machine 2 was John Cusack.
Yeah, that's a wow. That's a great pick. That's great because John Cusack has shown up in a lot of stuff that you and I have liked over the years, not just the stuff that was predated our time frame too. You know,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Like I think my favorite, obviously I liked Better Off Dead. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. But High Fidelity is
yeah, that's
really
a
good.
great movie. Great movie.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go. I'm sure that again, you ask me on a different day, and I'll probably give you a different answer.
yeah, and I think that's what makes this so fun is exactly what you just said. Such a great point, and you've said it before, but let's hit on that right now. You ask let's ask these questions on a different day, maybe around Christmas. We're going to have different answers.
Right.
You know, that's just how human nature goes. You know, we asked these questions 20 years ago, we're going to completely different answers.
Oh yeah, dude.
I mean, simple as that. So such a that yeah, that needs to be driven home. Such a valid point. Um, maybe not so much for the worst, but
No, no, no. The worst would probably
stick
no.
with it a little bit longer.
I mean, because I'll say this. I'll say this right off the bat. So back, there's certain times in your life, or in your life rather, if I can speak correctly, where you're more concerned about, and I know I was, like even musically, like there was a certain time when I was like, no man, punk is the only thing to listen to. Punk and ska and some metal's okay too. And and then it got to the point, and I was like just ignoring wide swaths of music that I otherwise would have really enjoyed just because I was trying to fit into a certain mold. Um, and as you age, and I know you know this too, you know, you kind of worry less about trying to fit into that mold, and you just worry about what makes you happy, and to hell with everybody else.
100%.
And that's kind of like I've got songs on my phone that if like 17, 18-year-old me saw that, he'd be like, dude, first of all, what is this magical little rectangle you have with all these things? But the second thing, he'd be like, dude, seriously, you have an NSYNC song on your phone?
Hmm.
Wait, you have rap and country and hip hop and classical. Wait, when did we start liking classical music? And it's just, you know, your tastes change you as you mature, and you go through different things, and you have different life experiences. You start to worry less about the stupid little things, and you just start to look for what's going to make you happy and what you're going to enjoy, and that becomes more important than any kind of, you know any label or anything that anybody's going to throw.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And that's funny. I um I always had that with music. Um, you knew that I put together these insane compilation albums, um, my experiments, if you will, on CD. I did that a long time ago. I started doing that 20 plus years ago, and I still kind of do it now. But this the mixtape onto the mix CD has now gone to the playlist. That's basically what the progression has been. And my playlist is no different than it was 20 years ago. There was these different things on it. I've got probably a little bit more of the little bit country in there now. I knew you never used to have any of that. I think part of that comes from living down here for so long. And when I get into liking certain things, but part of that's too is like my daughter plays the violin, she plays the fiddle, for a country place. So of course
Yeah,
some stuff's gonna stick with me.
right.
But okay, so favorite actor though, and much like the movie thing, obviously two of the three movies I mentioned had Brad Pitt. I said Fight Club and Seven. So I'd always say, oh yeah, Brad Pitt's my favorite actor, and you know, I'd always, you know, actress wise, I would always say Heather Graham or Zooey Deschanel for completely different reasons.
Yes.
Um, but but actor wise, it's such a hard question to answer because, like you, I love the MCU. So like I'm a big Robert Downey Jr. fan. I love Chris Evans, and just a lot of those actors in that just really kind of you know jump out at me as being my favorites because I would watch over and over again. But you know these days trying to like really think of people that I really like on a day in day out basis. Um, whether they're in a lot of stuff or not, they show up on a TV show or they show up on a reality show or they may have a bit role in a movie. One of the people that I really, really like, actually two of them, Joel McHale and
Oh,
Ken Jeong.
yes.
Um, love both of those guys because, well, for one, like I've basically liked Joel McHale ever since the Soup days.
Right.
So like anything that he did there, and then we recently redid Community, and obviously Ken Jeong's in that. But I was a huge fan of his whenever he kind of like broke out with Hangover. And then watching like The Masked Singer and both those guys show up on there, and it's just I don't know, like they just anything that they're on I could watch, whether it's a reality show or a TV show or a movie, that's so it's like that's kind of it for me. Like it's hard for me to really pin someone down. I will say this: I do watch pretty much anything with like Adam Sandler
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
or like a David Spade, like because and I think David Spade comes more from I'm not such a fan of his, but I love like Tommy Boy and Black Sheep so much because of Chris Farley, obviously.
Right.
That I'll give David Spade time for anything that he's in, just because it brings back good memories of you know. Plus, David Spade's been in some pretty funny stuff, but those type of guys too. I'll give some time for, but yeah, no,
That's a really good answer though. I didn't even think about, Ken Jeong and Joel McHale. They're fantastic. They really are.
yeah. I kind of wanted to think about it like who am I really watching the most of now? Who makes me laugh? Who's really entertaining to me? Um, Man, I could watch Joel McHale all day long,
Yeah.
but then like if I'm thinking about like long term, but the sad thing is he's not in a lot anymore. Is like Norm Macdonald. He's another one I just absolutely
Yes.
love, but he's does not in a lot of stuff.
You know who we both miss, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention him. Knoxville.
Oh yeah, of course, John. Yeah, I'm a huge Knoxville mark.
Yeah. Anything that he's in,
Yeah,
I'm on
uh,
board.
yeah.
Um,
There's
Another
a
one.
reason. Yeah, reason why I watched Action Point more than once.
Right. The reason why we went and saw The Ringer in the theater.
Oh yeah, we did.
Uh,
Wow. Yeah. Oof.
Another one that just came to mind while we were thinking about this and trying to think of like people now, like The Rock, Kevin Hart, and Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Yep. No. Yeah. Yeah. The Rock. That's a hard one. It's funny. My high school class ring has a Brahma bull on it.
Get out.
No, I'm not joking. Because I was such a fan of The Rock, because I wanted something to signify that I was that much into wrestling.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so I think I forget about him though because we talked about him before in like upcoming movies, Jungle Cruise, and obviously he's done some Fast and Furious movies and whatnot. But yeah, no, I mean talk about Seth Rogen's another one that he's in a ton of stuff that I really like. I mean, you mentioned earlier Zach and Miri.
Right.
Oh man, that's one
Craig
of my all-time
Robinson,
favorite
that's
movies.
it.
Oh, I love Craig Robinson.
Yeah.
Fantastic actor.
Great in
And
The Office, great on, great in that movie, great in pretty much everything he's in. What was the one? Shoot, was he was in was This Is the End. He was
Hmm.
in. He was in. I feel like he was in that Christmas movie too, The Night Before. I know Anthony Mackie was in that, but I feel like at some point he showed up in that. Um, oh God, there you go. There's a duo that if they're in anything, I'm gonna watch it. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Oh yeah, how did we forget Simon Pegg? I
I
guess
don't know.
because I guess to me it's like you have Shaun of the Dead, you have Hot Fuzz, uh, Paul. I
World's
guess
End.
yeah, you have, but yeah, I think you had such back to back strong movies there that it kind of because it was so long ago now.
Yeah.
That's not on the top of your mind. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Uh,
I do have one funny anecdote for you about your boy Brad Pitt. So I don't know if I've ever told you this. I'm sure I probably did, and I just forget because concussions and beer. But did I ever tell you about the time I got punched in the stomach when I was on a date because of Brad Pitt?
no, no, like, you have to elaborate here. This I think this would make a good. This I think this would close out this episode nicely.
So I went on a date with this girl. I was super into her, and we went and saw Meet Joe Black. And at the time, I hadn't seen anything else that Brad Pitt had been in. He just looked like a doof to me. And so there's a scene in Meet Joe Black where he's walking down the street and they're looking back and forth at each other, him and whoever the lead was, which I think it was like Claire Forlani or somebody like that. And he's walking towards traffic and he looks back and he gets freaking wailed by a car. And he bounces off of that car and he bounces off of another car and then he flips in the air and it was hilarious. And I started laughing and I'm cracking up. And this girl looks at me and she just punches me in the stomach. I mean, it worked out because at that time I was in shape, and when she punched my stomach and she kind of like hurt her fist, she was like, "Oh, well, what's that?" And then she realized I had abs, and then one thing led to another. It was a good night, but but I'll always remember that. Like I cracked up in the theater laughing at Brad Pitt getting hit by a car and then got punched in the stomach for it.
That's so good. I don't. We can't do anything better than that. I think that finished that wraps everything up nicely.
Yeah, I think that's the end.
That's great. All right. Well, yeah, thank you all for listening once again. We are the Noise Brigade.
We'll be bringing the noise and all that good stuff very soon. Back with you. Hopefully, the next episode we do will be the cryptocurrency. But it's up in the air right now. We will get it done, but unsure of exactly when. But we will be back with great fury, furious anger, and great intensity.
Yeah, and we'll throw some good content in there in between.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it'll suck. I don't know. We'll probably talk about wrestling and piss everybody off again, and
Yep, subscribers go from 12 to 10.
Or from like 3 to -8.
That's right. Yeah, good point.
All right, until next time, we've been the Noise Brigade. Thank you for listening. Be good, everybody.
Later on.